There's a condition in the Phoenix property that we have under contract right now that states it's up to me to figure out whether or not the insulation factors on that property were built to spec. Got a question on YouTube asking me, do I consider the property's energy efficiency with respect to HVAC, if they have solar panels, things like that. Question is, when selecting a new property, do you consider the home's current state of energy efficiency in terms of the current HVAC equipment, insulation levels, and solar, etc.? And I put, obviously, I do. I'm going to make a new video about it. So it's very important. And here's a couple things that I for sure look for. Number one, does it have forced heat? Does it have a furnace? A lot of people don't like baseboard heating or electrical heating. Reason why? It's very expensive, especially in Ontario. Ontario has the highest cost of electricity in, I believe, North America. So a tenant coming in, they generally know that already, and they're not going to like it. Number two, the age of the HVAC system, very important. Some of them only last, 5 to 15 years. Usually I think I'm usually getting about 10 to 15 years out of them if they are properly maintained. Change your filters, your belts, things like that. One of the strategies that I use in my properties is we have people on a monthly basis going in there doing checks, and they're kind of like unofficial HVAC checks for maintenance, and that kind of gives us an eye on the property as well. The condition, are there multiple people living in the property that aren't allowed? Things like that. It allows you to have an eye in the property while also taking care of your mechanical equipment. In terms of insulation, that's a little bit difficult to get into because you're ripping walls down, or the you're ripping out interiors and stuff like that. So
in your property inspection, though, like Don would probably talk about that.
So,
does he test for it?
Yeah. So one of the things that he does do is he brings an infrared camera, and you can see like heat loss, right? So you'll be able to see in certain things on exterior walls, or does it make sense to, if there's a ceiling in an attic, but an unused attic, does it make sense to maybe pump in some, insulation, blow insulation or whatever? I can't remember exactly the term they call it, but they just like fucking blow it in.
Yeah, blown in insulation.
It's blown in, right? Yeah. So, stuff like, I have done that in an area. Actually, I did that in my own personal residence where it was literally like nothing in there. There was like literally nothing above us with respect to insulation. And the way that the old houses work is you need like a cross breeze in the attic. So as you could imagine, it's literally freezing up there. And when you have nothing insulating the ceiling on the second story or whatever, and all the heat's rising, but you're losing so much of it. So I have noticed a big difference. When I first got into the house, my heater or my furnace was running nonstop. I blew in that insulation, and it actually turns off now. Yeah, which is, so it's a huge savings, but it's also something that it'll save the mechanical and stuff. I probably won't see my money back for fucking 10 years anyways. But at the end of the day, it's less wear and tear on the HVAC system or the furnace and everything like that. I don't consider solar. I've never come across a property where they had solar on it. So I've never considered that, or like, wind, any of that kind of stuff. I've seen them, but I've never come across them on properties that I wanted to purchase. But the general stuff, just maintaining your mechanical, equipment in your home, I think is very important. You'll get more life out of it, and you'll get, less service calls. It'll be cheaper, and they'll operate more efficiently. So that's kind of important, in the wintertime, which I still need to do. Speaking of which, cover them up. You don't want ice getting in there, and you want you're going to start getting cracks in certain things, and, expansion and, all that kind of stuff. You got to really take care of it. because it could get really costly if, especially if you have a new system. Ooh, it's raining, eh?
Yeah, just tripped me out for a second.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, somebody's fucking around outside. But yes, I do consider that. And something that's very interesting is that there's a condition in the Phoenix property that we have under contract right now that states it's up to me to figure out whether or not the insulation factors on that property were built to spec. Because Phoenix is in a fucking desert, essentially. You have to build things to a certain specific code to regulate energy use. So that's something that's very specific to this video now, given the climate of the property that we're investing in.
Yeah.
So yes.
Also the fact that it was just renovated, and you have to look into if they actually renovated it to
exactly. So I have to bring in somebody that actually knows their shit, right?
Yeah.
So do I take into consideration the property's, energy efficiency? Yes. Only to a specific point. Past that specific point, I do not.
Done. Cool.